When you saw an opportunity, you built a business around it. And every day since, you've kept a sharp eye on ways to evolve and keep your business thriving. It takes courage, creativity, and a clear perspective. At Bremer Bank, we understand that your business is the result of your hard work and ingenuity, and we're here to support you with solutions when you spot an opportunity to grow. Work with Bremer Bank, because understanding is everything.
It's Not Your Fault is a podcast for parents, caregivers, and young people navigating the world and its challenges. Here's your host, Brandon Jones.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of It Is Not Your Fault, a teen mental health podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about sleep. Yeah, sleep, and why it's important for the teen and adolescent in your life to get adequate sleep. Sleep is probably one of the most unfamiliar things that we do every day on a day-to-day that we don't quite always understand. We know it's important, but we don't know what the purpose is fully. Science has not determined the purpose of sleep, but we know it's something that we all need. We know animals need it. We know humans need it in order to keep moving forward. We know what happens when you don't get enough sleep. We know what happens when you do get enough sleep, but we don't know why we actually sleep. Believe it or not, Google that. Check it out. We don't really know why people or creatures sleep, but we do. And we know the importance of it. And we know that sleep has definitely been something that has taken a swan dive with the rapid accelerating growth of technology, is that people get less sleep because we are more on devices and other things that are grabbing our attention versus actually sleeping. It was once recommended that adults get between 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, believe it or not. Nowadays, it's recommended that adults get at least 6 hours of sleep. So we've taken quite a pullback on even the amount of sleep we should be considering just for ourselves to be healthy. And that is due to the digital growth that we've had and the amount of screens that we engage in. When it comes to young people, children, it used to be recommended that they get up to 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And if they're younger children, 10 to 12 hours, believe it or not, that's not happening at all. Most young people get between 5 and 6 hours of sleep because they are on devices and video games and things of that nature. So sleep has definitely taken a dive over the last few years with the accelerated growth again of technology. So it's important for us to pay attention to sleep because we know that if you don't have enough sleep, it can have detrimental impacts to your body, to your mental health, to your physical health. It can definitely take a toll on you. In fact, for folks, there was a few studies, and for folks who stayed up for over 72 hours straight, it is comparative to someone who would drive a car intoxicated. If you were driving a car with and you were up for 72 hours, you couldn't tell the difference if this person was drunk on alcohol and drinking under, while they're intoxicated versus just sleep deprived. Believe it or not, that is an actual study that came out, which says a lot. And obviously, not having enough sleep definitely affects your thinking process, your reactions, your ability to just process things as best as possible. So, if we know this, if that is something we do know about sleep, but we don't know the actual cause, it is important that we encourage healthy sleep habits for the young people in your life, and that's what I'm going to dive into today. So, here's a little bit of the article that I put together. You can check this article out on our Facebook page, by the way. So we'll start with this. Adolescence is a critical time of rapid growth, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's a period marked by major life transitions, identity development, academic pressures, and social exploration. But one essential ingredient often is overlooked at nurturing healthy and resilient teens, and that is sleep. We don't think about this all the time. In fact, quality sleep isn't just about feeling rested and being fully rested. It is the foundation to mental health, emotional regulation, learning, and physical development. Unfortunately, most teens aren't getting enough sleep. According to the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, nearly 73% of high school students report that they don't get the recommended 8 to 10 hours of sleep on the school nights. This sleep deprivation can have significant consequences on their well-being. The good news is parents and caregivers can play a powerful role in helping teens prioritize rest and build habits that support better sleep. And that's what we're going to talk about. How do we empower you as the parent, as the caregiver, or even as the young person who's watching this podcast to get better sleep? You need it. I need it. I aim for that 8 hours as much as I can. Most times I get it. Sometimes I'll get 7. Sometimes I get 6.5. But I do aim for that full 8 when I can, especially as I get older. Because even though when you're young you need a lot of sleep, but when you're older, your body tends to not have as much energy as you used to. So you definitely need to sleep. So it's very, very important for all of us. But let's talk a little bit about why sleep is important for teens. So sleep is more than just downtime. It is when your brain and your body get to recharge, heal, and grow. So during adolescence, sleep plays a critical role in a few different areas. The first area is emotional regulation. So sleep plays a critical role in emotional regulation. Sleep impacts how teens manage their emotions. Inefficiency in sleep can lead to mood swings, irritability, and a lot of risk-taking behaviors. You're not thinking clearly. So you just start doing things that you normally wouldn't do or that you shouldn't do. You're doing those things and when you don't have enough sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation can be linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, believe it or not. And a well rested teen is more likely to handle stress in healthy ways and to maintain emotional balance. So we know that when you get the adequate sleep that you need, it improves your ability to manage your emotions or to regulate your emotions. Where when you don't get adequate sleep, it doesn't help that at all. Number two, having adequate sleep or having inadequate sleep can affect your cognitive functioning and your academic performance. So during sleep, the brain processes and stores information from the day. With enough rest, teens struggle with without enough rest, teens struggle with concentration, memory, decision making, and problem solving. Sleep deprived teens may find it harder to focus in school, retaining what they've learned and performing well on tests. So you may have heard, when you were younger, or if you're a young person, you may have heard this. If you want to do well in that test or that exam tomorrow, make sure you get a good night's sleep. Make sure you wake up and you eat a nice breakfast. Make sure you're well rested and you're ready to go. Right? We hear this a lot because we know that when you're rested, your brain functions a lot better. You have a lot more clarity in your thinking, and you can withdraw memory a lot better when your brain is not overwhelmed and exhausted. So that's number two. When you get adequate sleep, you have improved cognitive functioning and academic performance. Number three, if you don't get adequate sleep, what ends up happening is your physical health and your development take a hit. So adolescents experience a second stage of rapid physical growth, and sleep fuels this development. Growth hormones are released during deep sleep, supporting muscle development, tissue repair, and overall physical health. Poor sleep is also associated with weakening immune system. So if you notice that you're someone who gets sick often, chances are you have a weakened immune system. Um, and it also leads to increased risk for obesity and a lot of metabolic disorders. So if you're someone who struggles with weight gain or weight loss, it could be linked to sleep, and sleep is probably a good portion of what's happening, and you might have to adjust your sleep as best as possible. Now, I've gone through a couple different stints of like serious working out, like having personal trainer, things of that nature. And one thing that's been consistent, they've all said you gotta get enough sleep to let your muscles recover. Getting sleep is very important. If you want to lose weight, if you want to, tone up, if you want to build muscle, you have to get adequate sleep because that's your body's chance to reset and reform so that you're ready to rock and roll and keep growing in a healthy way. And then the next thing, not having enough adequate sleep definitely affects a young person's mental health protection. Now, what do we mean by that? So, when you do get regular quality sleep, it helps protect against your mental health, believe it or not, and the mental health issues you may be currently dealing with. So, teens who sleep well are less likely to develop depression and anxiety disorders. They're less likely because their brains are more equipped to deal with some of the things that show up in their lives. Sleep is a natural buffer against emotional ups and downs that can feel overwhelming during adolescence. Think about when you've been frustrated in your life, especially when you were younger. And think about how many times you said, "Man, I just want to lay down. I just want to just sleep on it." Sometimes we even use that language. I'm gonna sleep on it. That we have these, we have these ideas and we have these understandings that sleep does play a role in our ability to reset, recharge, and kind of recalibrate as we move forward. But I don't think we really understand the impacts of sleep. I think that that's usually when people say, "I'm gonna sleep on it." That's just their way of disconnecting from dealing with the issue at the moment, but not realizing that the sleep is also very pivotal to their recovery or their ability to move forward, given the dynamic that is going on. So, why do young people struggle with sleep? What is that about for them? Like, why are they struggling? Well, a lot of teens struggle with sleep. Sometimes it could be the biological changes that they're going through, so hormones. Their inner clock is just just recalibrating. It's not the same. They stay up long nights. They feel more tired during the day. That can happen, making this a natural for them to feel more awake late at night and making them more sleepy during the day. But a lot of it does have to do with our screen time, believe it or not. I know I talk a lot about social media, screen time, the internet, and how it affects kids because that's the world that they're in. And if you want to help adolescents today, you have to understand the impacts of the internet and how it's showing up. It's very, very important because that is a direct correlation to the sleep issues that we have with young people is because the devices are getting more of their attention and time than the actual pillows that they need to rest their heads on and go to bed with. So, before we wrap this up, what can we do as parents and caregivers to help young people move forward, given the fact that sleep is taking a dive in today's world? Number one, we need to respect their biology, but we also need to set strong boundaries. So this is goes along with what I talk about compassion and accountability, where you're understanding to what's going on, but you're also still imposing rules and regulations on people so they don't just kind of go all willy nilly and do whatever they want to do because they're young and empowered. But you also have to hold that power position. You have to hold that leverage as a parent and caregiver and be collaborative, but not be to a point where anything goes. Right, you got to have some boundary. So it's important that the parents still set a boundary that assists the young person to get enough sleep. That might mean taking the phone away, cutting off the Wi-Fi, setting a particular time measures. Putting restrictions on devices, whatever it takes, or whatever it's going to take that's respectful and not causing harm to the young person. Definitely recommend it. Set those boundaries as a parent. Number two, establish a consistent sleep routine. Yeah, this is something that I have to do in my house. And now that I have a preteen, she would love to stay up all night and be on her phone and just pass out sleep when she's ready. But devices are turned in at 8 every evening. Usually they get them between about 6:30 and 8, so about an hour and a half of screen time after school. Sometimes that's a little less depending on what else is going on. We might have some homework that we need to do things like that. But if there's no homework, I give them about an hour to hour and a half of screen time. Um, then once we hit our time, boom, we're done, and then we're off to bed, or we're off to showers, or we're watching a movie if it's on the weekend. Like there's a lot of other things that we can do besides just be on our screens. And how do we reconnect with each other? Limit screen time before bed, at least 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Your young people should be disconnecting from their devices. Yes, disconnecting, allowing their brains to kind of recalibrate to the actual world and not stay stuck in a visual world. Now, think about yourself. Think about if you ever watched, like, if you binge watch shows and then you went to bed and then you have that, like, that show or that movie, like, playing in your dreams. Sometimes you're the character, you're rewatching scenes, things like that. Same thing happens with young people when they're on devices. Before they go to sleep, they're replaying the images and the things that they've experienced right there in their own minds. Uh, a couple more things, just a few more things that we're going to wrap up. So limited screen time, and then the next one is make the sleep space relaxing. Like make sure you have conducive space for the person to lay down, comfortable pillows, correct bedding, temperature's good in the room, maybe some supportive things that they need to fall asleep, like a bottle of water or some lotion or something to make them just come in comfortable, relax themselves as much as possible. It's very important to make sure that um, your space is conducive for good sleep. And then the last thing that I'm going to share with you, just be mindful of stress and the mental health needs. Every kid's mental health needs are not the same. So we can't just assume that sleep is going to be the go-to, the magic thing that's going to fix it. But it is an important thing to go into the puzzle of the well-being of your child. So add it to the the rapport, add it to the regimen, not the rapport. The rapport is you connect with your child. The regimen is how they come to their space of well-being. And that's what you're going to have to do, is add that to the regimen, is good, adequate sleep to help them get better 1% a day at a time. It's very, very important. So those are my tips for today. There's some other things that we can do as well as parents and caregivers, but really just pay attention to the sleep patterns of the young people. And if you're a young person, pay attention to your sleep habits and try to do your best. Try to get that, 8 hours if you can. Stretch yourself, get to that goal. And if you can't, you need to talk to your parent and talk about ways for you to kind of get to a better space of sleep. All right, that's going to do it for us today on today's podcast. Again, It Is Not Your Fault, a teen mental health podcast. I am Brandon Jones, and if you like this podcast, there are 3 ways that you can connect with us. The first way is on our Facebook page. Yes, you can check us out on Facebook. Just put in the search bar, It Is Not Your Fault podcast. You can find articles like the one I wrote today and other articles and other helpful tips right there on Facebook. So just go ahead and search It's Not Your Fault podcast. Connect with us there. If you want to connect with me directly, you can reach out to me at my website. That's jegna.org. That's JEGNA.org. Jegna.org. You can ask me questions, learn a little bit more about what I do right there on my website. And if you liked me, you like the Facebook page, but you want to learn a little bit more, you can check us out at our podcast network. And that network is ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. Again, ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. And not only does Shaletta make you laugh.com, but also you get a lot of good information to live a great life. And there's some humor in there, there's some funny folks in there, but there's a lot of qualified folks helping you live the best life that you can. All right, folks, it's going to do it for me today. Again, It's Not Your Fault, the Teen Mental Health Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Jones, and I just want to say to you, be safe, be constructive, be well, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
To check out previous episodes of It's Not Your Fault, or to learn more about Brandon Jones, log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.